Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Clay, and I'm the Bucks believer. After losing to the Miami Heat in 5 games in the second round of the 2020 NBA playoffs, it was clear that the Milwaukee Bucks needed to do something to shake up their roster. That move came in the form of an upgrade at the point guard position as they flipped Eric Bledsoe, George Hill, and a bunch of draft capital for one of the best players on the trade market in Jrue Holiday. This move would prove to be excellent for Milwaukee as they went on to win the championship, with Holiday playing at an all-star level and being the third best player on the team. In today's video, I'll be breaking down everything Jrue Holiday from this past season, and as always, we'll start with the positives. The biggest strength of Holiday's game is clearly what he does on the defensive end of the court. In my opinion, Jrue is the single best point of attack defenders in the entire league, and the numbers certainly back that up. Last season, Jrue spent more time guarding players with a usage rate of upwards of 25% than any other player in the NBA, with the exception of Dillon Brooks. This means that Jrue is almost always defending the primary scoring option in the opposing team's offense, and Holiday is as effective as anyone in the league at putting tons of pressure on that player and making life as difficult as possible on them. This was on full display in last year's NBA Finals, where Holiday was pressuring Chris Paul full court and making it so that the older point guard would be tired out by the end of the series. This strategy worked incredibly well for the Bucks, as Paul ended up having one of his worst series of the entire postseason. This allowed the Bucks to have a real leg up on the defensive end of the court, as they were then allowed to focus most of their attention on Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton instead of Paul. Holiday was essentially able to take CP3 out of that series for portions of time, and that's a big reason why the Bucks were able to come away with their victory. That's far from the only time when Holiday's defensive exploits were on display, though. He was terrific throughout the course of the playoffs as well as the regular season. Holiday is also a great defensive playmaker. He's not quite on the same level as an off-the-ball anticipatory defender as someone like a Dante DiVincenzo or a Giannis Antetokounmpo, but he is still very good at making defensive plays. Last year, Holiday had a 2.4% steal rate and a 1.7% block rate, both of which are obviously fantastic. Overall, I think that Holiday is clearly one of the 10 or so best defenders in the league, and if you value perimeter defense rather than interior defense, there's a case that can be made that he's the most impactful player on the less glamorous end of the court in the entire NBA. Holiday's impact on offense isn't quite as strong, but he still does make some significantly positive contributions in a variety of ways. Chief among these is Holiday's ability as a playmaker. Last season, Jrue's assist rate of 26.3% was actually his lowest in 9 seasons. However, the biggest reason for that was the fact that Holiday spent more time playing off the ball with the Bucks than he had in either of his 2 previous NBA stops in New Orleans and Philadelphia. I actually thought that Holiday was very impactful as a playmaker despite this off-the-ball role, as he posted a 3-to-1 assist-to-turnover ratio and made great improvements as the season went on. The biggest reason for this is the fact that Holiday was able to get more acclimated with the Bucks' offensive system. He greatly improved at finding players in the dunker spot for shots at the rim as the season went on, and by the end of the year, this was one of the best sources of offense for the Bucks. Holiday was very good as well whenever Giannis Antetokounmpo was out of the lineup. In that case, Jrue was asked to take over as the Bucks' primary initiator, and he did so at an extremely high level. There were multiple games where Giannis was absent in the regular season where Jrue was able to dish out more than 10 assists, and after Giannis injured his knee in Game 4 of the Eastern Conference Finals against the Atlanta Hawks, Holiday took his playmaking to another level, dishing out 25 assists in just 2 games, leading the Bucks to a series victory over a scrappy Atlanta Hawks team, despite Milwaukee not having their best player. A big reason why Jrue is so effective as a playmaker is because of the constant pressure that he puts on the rim. Despite not having the quickest first step in the league, Holiday is still able to generate large sums of paint touches for the Bucks offense. He's great at leveraging his strong lower body and core, as defenders seemingly bounce off of him as he carves out his path to the basket. Once Holiday does get into the paint, his vision kicks in. He's great at making the correct decision, whether that be finding an open teammate for a kick-out three-point shot or someone under the basket in the dunker spot for an easy layup. Holiday's rim pressure also makes him extremely effective as a scoring threat. 27.9% of Holiday's shots last season came at the rim, and he was incredibly efficient at finishing those when you consider that he's just a 6'3" point guard. Jrue made 70.4% of his shots at the rim last regular season, and he's very creative with how he finishes, as he's terrific at avoiding opposing shot blockers and knocking down shots even if they are contested at the basket. Unfortunately, a lot of this touch evaporated in the playoffs, as Jrue shot 10% worse at the rim in the postseason than he did in the regular season. Consistency is a bit of an issue here, but overall, I think that the rim pressure Jrue applies is clearly a positive in his game and makes him such a good weapon for the Bucks offense. When thinking about weaknesses in Jrue Holiday's game, there are none to speak of on the defensive end of the court. However, on offense, Jrue does have a few notable flaws that it is worthwhile touching on at this point in the video. The first of these is his inconsistent jump shot. Holiday was actually very good in this capacity during the regular season, as he made 39.2% of his shots from beyond the arc. It's not like this came on an incredibly easy shot profile either, as more than half of Jrue's made three-point field goals were unassisted. A large portion of Jrue's shots from beyond the arc come on dribble pull-ups, and he was a reliable threat in this area, especially in transition for the Bucks during the regular season. Unfortunately, Jrue really struggled to make shots from beyond the arc in the playoffs, as he made just 30.3% of his shots from three-point land in the postseason. This is a very key area of improvement for Holiday, as he could become an even more effective offensive player if he could consistently make 36 to 39% of his shots from three throughout the course of the regular season and the postseason. A clear path to Holiday improving these percentages is better shot selection. In last year's playoffs, it was clear to any viewer that Holiday had gotten away from his bread and butter of getting to the basket and instead settled for too many dribble jumpers. The numbers backed this up as well, as Jrue took 5% less shots at the rim in the playoffs than he did in the regular season, instead taking 2% more mid-range jumpers and 3% more three-pointers. This is a slight change, but it is noteworthy nonetheless. Holiday is clearly at his best when he's attacking the basket. That's the time in which he is threatening the opposing defense more than any other. For that reason, he needs to focus on doing that in key playoff games rather than settling for those pull-up jump shots. Opposing defenses just don't have the same level for respect for him on the perimeter as they do at the rim. If Holiday can improve that pull-up jumper, as I talked about before, it will make opposing defenses have to respect him in that same way. However, until he does that, I think he'd probably be best to take far less pull-up jump shots in key games than he did this past season. Despite his small offensive weaknesses, Jrue Holiday was clearly essential to the Bucks' success last season. His all-world caliber defense and terrific playmaking ability made him the missing piece in the Bucks' championship formula. Jrue was perfect in his role for the Bucks last year, and for that reason, I'm going to give his season a grade of an A. Let's wrap this thing up by asking ourselves what comes next for Jrue Holiday. As has been the answer to that question for the majority of the Bucks championship core, he's going to be in a Milwaukee Bucks jersey for the foreseeable future. As a result of the extension he signed in the middle of last season, Holiday is on a 4-year, $134 million deal with the Bucks that includes a $36.9 million player option on the final season. The Bucks will hope that Holiday has a few more all-star caliber seasons left in the tank, and considering how fantastic he was for them last year, I have no reason to doubt that Jrue can continue to play at this very, very high level. Thank you all for watching today's video. I hope that you greatly enjoyed it, and if you did, be sure to leave a like and subscribe, especially if you are a fellow Bucks believer. This is the place for you. Also, let me know in the comment section down below what your favorite Jrue Holiday moment was from this past season. For me, it would obviously have to be his monster play at the end of Game 5 of the NBA Finals, where he picked Devin Booker's pocket, brought the ball down the court, made a gutsy call, and threw an alley-oop to Giannis Antetokounmpo that resulted in an and one that put the Bucks up for good in what ended up being a massive turning point in the finals. For me, that had to have been Jrue's best moment in a Bucks uniform so far, but I'm interested to hear all of your opinions, so be sure to let me know. I think that I've now covered everything that I wanted to cover, so that's going to be it for me. Ladies and gentlemen, I will see you all again very soon.